Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know why I was looking out the window there. Anyway, welcome to this meta video where we're going to finish off stuff from yesterday. Because I started doing this video yesterday and then I realised there's absolutely tons of stuff going off in the UK over last weekend. I didn't think there'd be much. Because it's like, first week back at school or whatever. But, for some reason, tons of tournaments. So let's have a look at some lists in the UK. That's interesting. That seems this is this weekend. I'm looking for results. Not upcoming. UK, yes. Here we go. Right. So there is quite a few. We've got the September Skirmish, which was a 4-game tournament, 1250 points, won by Singe Frost. Great name, especially for Ogre Kingdoms. Then you have the September Old World line, Ross Cooper with Mortricourt and Joe Duckett there. And then September Old World Lion's Heart was a 3-game, I believe, 2K tournament, won by Andrew Chant with Errantry Crusade, Tom Gilliam with Exiles, and Oliver Caron with Wood Elf Realms. We've got a little tournament going on at Darkfire Cafe, which is quite a nice little cafe in the middle. Well, no, not really. It's in London anyway. I can't really remember where. I've never actually been in it. I walked past it once and went, oh, that's that place. I should remember that and then forgot. I think I was anyway. It doesn't really. I can't remember. I was on the way to. I was probably on the way to meet fund managers or economists or some Londony people to talk about Londony stuff. And to anybody who doesn't live in the UK, London is like a really weird microcosm within the UK. So like you've got essentially vaguely normal people everywhere else, and then you've got London people who are all kind of a bit more excitable. I think is the best way of putting it about everything. They're sort of slightly more. How do I put this? Slightly more American. If you catch my drift. Like Americans are normally like really positive. Everything's great. It's not You ask somebody in England, how are you doing? They go, oh, well, I think the best we get is not too bad. As I say that, there's a group of friends greeting each other across the park. And of course they do that with a middle finger. That's, which I quite like. That's Britain. That's, in London, they're a bit more, I don't know. No, Americans probably wrong because they're a bit more kind of they ignore you, like they don't talk to you, like. But everything's like super serious, like everything, I've got to, yeah, that kind of thing. It's very kind of let's go sort of nonsense. Very bit more excited or excitable, I guess. So the sorts of people who do jobs in London are, well, there's plenty of normal people doing normal jobs, but then you get the London people who are doing stuff like international finance and all that kind of exciting Londony, meetings here, there, signing things, brilliant, that kind of, Anyway, one of those sorts of meetings. Which I get bored. It's interesting talking to these people, but you don't want too much of them. Anyway, Colchester Clash One Dayer. I don't know why I was talking about that. Colchester Clash One Dayer. Darkfire Cafe took place. Matt Pastfield won it with Tomb Kings. We got Cathay under Jack Wainhouse coming in second. Rich Poots with Brayherds coming in third there. We then had a new dawn here, James McKenzie, Nick Fowler and Paul Lowe taking out the top 3. Wild Herd and Exiles there, not surprised at that. Interesting to see what's in the Beastman list. The Refenestration of Prague. How would because to defenestrate means to throw somebody out the window. So refenestrate, would that be to throw them out the window again? Is that what the re refers to? Or do you mean re-defenestrate? So what would be the opposite? What would be to throw somebody back into the window? Because if they've been defenestrated, I suppose it would be undefenestrate, wouldn't it? Anyway, then we had, of course, Facehammer, big tournament. Usually is. Mike, Dave, and Gene took out the top three there with some pretty straightforward factions. Facehammer, Liam managed to win it with Grand Cathay. We've got Bretonia coming in second. Chaos Dwarves, Tom Brejoj. Sorry, it should be Brejojovski. Or is it just like a Brejojovski? Or is it just speed it up? Anyway, Tom, if you're listening, let me know how to pronounce your name. It's a cool name. And Ian Tyrrell Marsh with the Kingdom of Britannia. And then the Saffron Fantasy Slam was another 5-game tournament. Mortuary Cult, the old-fashioned traditional winner of everything, won that one. And then we've got Wild Herd and High Elves coming in third. But High Elves getting a 3-2. Probably there may not have been that many people there. But anyway, we'll have a look in a sec. We had another 5-game tournament with Skaven taking a win. Can't wait to look at that one. Lucas Watson, Jordan Gray there. And then we've got even more. 6th of September taking place. Old World Tournament. Bracknell, Albert James Barr with Tomb Kings of Khemri. Nick Stansbury with Warriors of Chaos. Daniel Kennedy with Kings of Bretonia. And and then the Grand Joust 6, which took place in lovely Wales. Alex Bunduck won it with Warriors of Chaos. Che Davies Smith with Warriors of Chaos. And Mikel Diaz-Buil coming in third. I wonder if that's all of them, because I'm not sure. I'll have to ask Gomo about this, because I'm not sure what happens when. I'm not sure if that's all of them. Sorry if it isn't, but I'm not sure how to... actually, if I do England, let's see if that Wales tournament drops off the bottom. It does, but there's nothing there. As in, yeah, maybe that's all of it. Cool. Let's have a look at some lists. Well, let's have a look at some tournaments. So, the 1250 September skirmish... had 12 people playing, which is, a reasonable, decent-ish size, especially with 4 games, because that means you're playing quite a few of the people who are there. Ogre Kingdom's coming top. I'm not really gonna look at the lists there with a great, with a fine-tooth comb, because it's only 1250 points, and I'm not really interested in tournaments at that size. I'll play those games, but it's tournament wise, it doesn't really tell you a lot about the overall meta. We had a little 2K tournament here, September Old World Lion's Heart. Andrew Chant managed to win it with Errantry Crusade. So let's have a quick look at the winning list, but I think that's the only one I want to look at here. Is it the only one? Exiles, Wood Elves. We had a look at quite a lot of Wood Elves with part 1 of this video. So anyway, so we've got an Errantry Crusade list, 2,000 points. We've got 869 points of characters. So it's pretty typical nowadays to see about half your characters go on points. Sorry, half your characters. Excuse me, while I take on board some tea. Lovely bit of just Yorkshire. Ran out of Yorkshire Gold, and I've only got a box of Yorkshire at the moment. So I'll have to restock that. Anyway, so we've got a Duke on a Pegasus. He's got a Virtue of the Penitent. I forget what Virtue of the Penitent does. So let's have a quick I'm trying to sort of build up a quick reference bit here so I can just click on a list for the purposes of these videos and just quickly have a look at some rules. Where? Oh, it's K, isn't it, for Kingdom of Bretonia? Cathay, H-I-J-K. Here we go. Exiles, let's pick that one. Right. Virtue of the Penitent. 50 points. Unbreakable. Can't join a unit. Yeah, I don't see that as being good value. So he's given it the Grom rule. Great. So he's got a Duke on a royal peg that cannot join a unit, but it is unbreakable. Duke on a royal peg has 4 wounds. I think royal peg gives you an extra wound. You've got healing potion for extra wounds, I guess. There's the Gauntlet of the Duel, which means this character, you can't refuse challenges against it. So I can see what he's going for here. He's going for like a really decent-ish combat character with a great weapon. And actually, I didn't see the potion of toughness. Yeah, so and a potion of toughness. So he can basically put himself out there and just be a bit of a roadblock. There's so much more value you can get out of your Duke than just using it as a bit of a roadblock. So, you know, I guess I'd guess that sorry, what was his name? That Andrew probably knows exactly what he's doing here, and he's probably just trying something else, or he knows what everybody else is doing, but thinks, do you know what? I think I want to do something different with my Duke. To be honest, I'm a bit bored of seeing that classic combo, so I'm not going to do it. We've got the Virtue of Knightly Temper on a Baron who has Crusader's Vow. We've got a Paladin, Damsel. Paladin is the free. Well, it's not the free BSB. You get the BSB upgrade for free with Bretonia. To be honest, I think every faction ought to be able to upgrade a Battle Standard Bearer for free. I don't see why anybody pays for it. Because if it's free for everybody, it's free for everybody. I don't know why Bretonia gets a 25-point advantage. You know what I mean? And then we'd see more of them, because they're cool. You know. And the models are always cool, and it's always this kind of, it's nice just to have like this linchpin for the whole army on the tabletop to kind of revolve around. But anyway, a couple of Knights Errant, Knight of the Realm on foot, big unit of them. What's going in the Knight of the Realm on foot? No, that Baron's on a royal peg. That Paladin is on foot. So maybe the Damsel and the Paladin, prayer icon of Kenel. I forget what that does, so let's check that one out quick. Dispel range by 3, +1 to dispel a hex. I mean, +3 to dispel range is quite good. Which will make this one be dispelling at range 21. Yeah, we've got a couple of units of Knights Errant, and like I said, and we've got this Knights of the Realm on foot. Presumably it's just the BSB that goes in there, and that makes a big block of 25. I mean, Knights of the Realm on foot have got that really good combination that you want in infantry, which is basically heavy armour, or ideally full plate, but they've got heavy armour. They can take a shield, and they can take a great weapon. So you've got that. You've got a really strong combination in that you can choose between your hand weapon and shields and drop down to a 3-up save, or hit them back with the great weapon, so sort of striking last. But because, like your infantry, for instance, if you get charged in the front with cavalry that aren't massively heavy hitting, so if it's like Empire Knights or whatever, you're probably going to go for the great weapon because you're fighting in 2 ranks. If you're 25, that's probably like 11 attacks going back. You know, probably like 5 or 6 hitting, but they're all wounding, and they're probably, you know, a few of those are going through, whereas the knights, you know, so you might be able to keep up with the knights in terms of damage, which is pretty good. You know, you don't see that. So it's a good combo. Or if they've got loads of attacks like Chosen Knights, you might decide to go hand weapon and shield, just to like, you know, judge it up a little bit, and also basically just to give you a bit of extra save. meaning that your knights survive a bit more. Of course, with them being knights, they are infantry with a pretty powerful inbuilt ward save. So having like a 5-up ward on a big block of infantry against high strength things is pretty nasty, especially when you combine it with a 3-up save. So it's Knights of the Realm on foot, because of the infantry upgrades, are now a really decent unit. But we still see with Bretonia characters on Pegasi flying around doing that kind of job. He's got a field trebuchet, waste of points. He's then got a big unit of Pegasus Knights. Again, like I said in the other video, you used to see like 2 units of Pegasus Knights, like normally, 3 of them, if not sort of 5, 2 big units of like 4 or 5 Peg Knights. Now we're only seeing 1, but it's super upgraded and it's got lots of characters in. So you got a big, like, fast damage dealing, mega unit. Because you think if the Duke and the Baron goes in that, right, you've got 700 points with the Pegasus. So you got 1,000 points rocking around in that unit, right? So it's gonna do a bit of damage. And actually, if that unit survives the battle, and it might do, as long as you pick your fights, and picking your fights with fly 10 is pretty easy, then that's going to do quite well. So I think the rest of the list I'm not really sure about, but he's done the right thing in terms of taking a big unit of Pegasus Knights and some characters to buff it up and, well, not buff it up, but just to enhance it. So good list, great list, because he's got the Pegasus Knights right. Okay, so that's Lion's Heart. We've then got, in fact, I'm just going to just quickly open these all in different tabs. And I'm going to, that was another 5 game. Jeez, so much going on. Let's do Wales last. And then let's put that one here. Right. Oh, poop. What have I done? No. On group tabs. Yes. Right. So, Warhammer Old World Bracknell, Albert James Barr with Team Kings of Kenry managed to win this 12-person tournament, so decent size for a one-dayer. I quite like a small one-dayer every now and again. Not recently, of course, because I don't know, I've just not been able to get to tournaments. Excuse me. So Albert James Barr winning with Camry. Let's have a quick look at the list. I don't think there'll be anything particularly surprising. He's got a High Priest on foot. No, you still see Double Dragon nowadays, but he's got a Tomb King on a Dragon with the Armour of Ages. Tick, tick, tick. Talisman of Protection. Very nice. So you've got to reroll wounds against it. He's now got a 5-up ward and a 5-up regen. And a... actually, if he's using Armour of the Ages, a 6-up save. Which he probably will, because he wants them to reroll wounds, of course. So that's what he's going for there. So you've got to use all of the armor. So either you use the special rule and the 6-up save, or you don't use the special rule and you use the 4-up save of the Bone Dragon. He's also, I think Tomb Kings come with heavy armor standard. I don't think that's an upgrade. If it is an upgrade, the waste of points. Right, he's then got 3 units of Skeleton Warriors, so taking up his core selection. He's got to spend 500 points here. He's managed 688, so he's a bit heavy. Most people just paid like a core tax, so they just buy literally about 501 points of core stuff. But anyway, he's gone for 3 units of Skeleton Warriors, so basically what that means is he's choosing to sink points into core because he wants the units to do a job for him strategically. So he's got some horse archers. He better have some chariots. He doesn't have some chariots. Interesting. So he's got 2 caskets, which is good pick. Necrosphinx, very good pick. Bow Shabti, they're great. I'd like to see more. Maybe it's just model availability, I guess. Because, for instance, if you look here, you got 688 points. He could drop one of these units of Skeleton Warriors, right? And there'd be 5, 2, 3. And then he could take another 3 Bow Shabti, which I think would serve him better in the long run. Personally, I'd combine up these units rather than having 2. Just have one that the High Priest can focus on just continually resurrecting. And this stuff's all pretty useful. But the main use of all of this is to act as chariot runners, so essentially to block the opponent, and so to sort of block the opponent from charging your chariots, and just to make sure that your chariots get their impact hits. So, you know, that's that's where. So yeah, I mean, it's a decent list. I mean, obviously Albert's a good player. I suspect that's probably a model availability issue. Looking at some of the unit sizes, they look a bit they're not ideal sizes. But maybe he's trying something as experimenting. I don't know. Colchester Clash one day out. Matt Pastfield managed to win it with Kemry again. Jack Wainhouse coming second with Cathay. Rich Poots third with Brayhurst. All of them winning all 3 games, which is really rather impressive. I'm not sure what's going on with the scoring here, because you've got Ben Whitley, who won all 3 games with Dwarven Mountain Holds, but only scored 37 tournament points, as opposed to the winner here, who scored 56. So if there's 3 games, there's probably a 20-0 tournament, and this is what I mean as being like one of the weaknesses of the 20-0 system, because Ben's won all 3 of his games, but there's a ton. In fact, there's 5 players above him who've effectively cumulatively done better in terms over the whole tournament. Despite the fact that he's not lost a game, he's still placing behind people who have. That to me feels a bit wrong. But you know. So do I really want to look at any of these lists? I'm sorry, I'm not bashing anybody here. I've seen a lot of Tomb King. Let's just have a quick check. See what list he's got. So he's got the Dragon, Talisman of Protection, Armor of Ages, Classic Combo. Thanks, phone. I've forgotten I'd set that alarm. It doesn't mean anything. It just reminds me to go to work in the morning, just in case I've got into something and forgot that time exists. And then we've got a Necrotect. Good pick. I like a Necrotect. I think they're really good. Especially if it goes in a big unit. Yeah, wow. So he's got a big unit of Tomb Guard here. Necrotect, probably the Royal Herald also goes in there. Possibly even this Mortuary Priest. What the Necrotect does, it gives them all +1 attack. So you've now got Tomb Guard with 2 attacks and Hatred, so re-rolling hits. Combined with the fact that they've got Cleaving Blow, you know, meaning that you really want to get a lot of hits through. So a lot of attacks, a lot of hits. Fishing for those 6s to wound. To basically ignore armor saves. It's only infantry and cavalry, sadly. It doesn't apply to monsters or chariots or monstrous infantry or monstrous cavalry. So Cleaving Blow is not Killing Blow, nor is it Monster Slayer, but it's still pretty decent. So you still want to fish for those 6s. Now I've said that, I'm pretty certain. I will just check now that I've said that. I'm having doubts for some reason. What am I doing? I want to look at Tomb Guard. I bet this is a mortuary cult. Yeah, bloody well is, isn't it? Did it even say? I bet it even said. It did even say. Idiot. Right. Cleaving Blow. Yeah. And are they toughness? And they're toughness 4 as well, which I think that's something I've underestimated about Tomb Guard and whatever the vampire count. They're called Tomb Guard as well, aren't they? Are they? What the hell are the vampire count ones called? You got White Lord, White King, and is that? Oh, hold on. Grave Guard. Great, like Tomb Guard, no, but not quite. Cool. Pardon me, I've got a real frog in my throat still. Well, I've got man flu again. Caught it from... So we've got some Bow Shabti. Great choice. They're very good. We've got 27 archers. Has he got the... He does have the Amulet of the Serpent here. So that confers poisoned attacks to the High Priest on the unit he's in. So perhaps the High Priest goes in the Skeleton Archers. And they form like a 7x4 block, meaning you get like, what would it be? 7, 28. No, that's wrong. 4, 12, 19. Yeah, so you get 19. No, No, you wouldn't, because you missed one at the front. You get 18 shots with those guys, fishing for those sixes to hit. Poison attacks are not at auto wound like they used to be. They're now +2 to wound, which is still quite good, but obviously it's not auto wound. I don't know why they did that really, but I mean whatever. Team Scorpion, well, yeah, because you had these massive units that were able to give themselves poison attacks, and that was broken. I mean, I'm not sure it was, but you know, there's other things in the game that's pretty broken. And then we've got a couple of Necrosphinx, really good shout. Team Scorpion, excellent for the points. So, yeah, really good, really decent list. I'm not surprised it did quite well. Jack Wainhouse with his Grand Cathay. Oh, okay. So he's limited himself to 2 Sky Lanterns. Maybe whoever ran this tournament listened to... because what I've been saying is essentially it's where the thing is native. I think that should be the unit restriction. So at Sky Lantern, you're allowed 2 in your list. Whether there is mounts or rare units or whatever, you're allowed 2 in your list. And I think that's a more sensible restriction of the bloody things. Because they are just ridiculously good. Like, you know, I don't know why you'd build a Cathay list without 2 of them in. And I think you do want one as Lord Magistrate. Because there's even so many shenanigans you can do with that. So, for instance, what you can do is you can put your normal Sky Lantern like just in front of the one that's Lord Magistrate, right? So then when you fire and flee to a charge, you can fall back in good order. That's going to leave you overlapping that guy. So you pop out the back and just end up touching. Then this guy ends up being in combat, probably doesn't die because it's almost impossible to, you know, you give it a Talisman of Protection, which he has done. So you got 10 wounds with the 5 at ward. So you need to do like 15 damage basically to get through. Like there's very few units that can do that, and because it's a character, it can always challenge out the character in the unit anyway, which, you know, obviates, you know, it basically just eliminates the unit. So, you know, I do think they need to change the challenge rules a little bit. So like characters need to be on equal footing. So for instance, I mean, my suggestion would be if like a single character, even if mounted on a dragon or whatever, cannot issue a challenge. The character of the unit can issue a challenge, but the big monstrous character thing can't. You know, unless it's, you know, if it's the only unit on its side in this current combat. I think that would be a really good rule that would stop monsters being able to just challenge champions. You know, and yeah, they only kill 1 model. They probably get a lot of combat res, but they're immune to the unit. Which, like, I think it works with dragons, but it's really broken with Lord Magistrates because, for instance, the unit that could charge it and maybe take it down in 1 turn, let's say Chosen Knights, right? Chosen Knights with a Lord and maybe a BSB in there as well. So like a big 1,000-point unit. Remember, this is 325 points. So we're charging like a big 1,000-point unit into it with tons and tons of attacks. You know, all hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s. You know, when I say tons and tons of attacks, like you've probably got like 20 attacks hitting on 3s, wounding. So even then, you need to roll well, and you need this unit to roll badly with its ward saves. But you know, ultimately, you know, that's pretty much the only unit I can think of that can possibly take it out in 1 turn. Because of its level of wounds and its toughness and everything, and it's, you know, it's got a 4-up save. It's just ridiculous. So you need high AP, high strength, high attacks. You know, that's what you need to take out a Sky Lantern, which is why they're so broken. Because it just anyway. So remember we've done the overlap thing. So the normal one, the one without the characters moved to the back. This one then blunts the attack of the unit by challenging a champion. Then that falls back in good order because it can. That's its special rule. even though it's unbreakable, and your opponent can only go 2 inches, so they can't even hit this one. So essentially, you might have lost a couple of wounds on your Lord Magistrate. Boo hoo! You're now down to only 8 or 7 or whatever, and you've still got both Sky Lanterns, and they're both ready to fire at this unit. In fact, they can both like move around and drop bombs on it now. You know, because the bombs, you know, don't prohibit you from marching. Yeah, it's just so broken. But you only need 2 of them to be an absolute pain in the arse, you know, and 2 of them is a problem. So 4 of them is a catastrophe, really. Rich Poots came 3rd with Beastman Brayherds. He's gone for a fairly... Oh, no, he's gone for a slightly different Beastman list. So typically you see a big unit of Gauls for the Doom Bull to sit in. He's gone for fewer characters, and he's given them more upgrades. He's put the Bray Shaman on the Razor Gore Chariot, so he's got the Hag Tree Fetish, which allows you to reroll wounds for magic missiles, which is great because these guys have Vile Tide, which is a spell that's relatively easy to cast. It does 5d6 strength 2 hits or strength 1, doesn't really matter. No armor save, brutal. Re-rolling wounds on that, absolutely brutal. I think it is strength 1, isn't it? But yeah, this is a pretty decent list. A bit of a smattering of everything, which is how a good Beastman list looks nowadays. A New Dawn, Warhammer, the Old World tournament. We have James Mackenzie winning with Exiles, Beastman coming in 2nd, Wildherd coming in 3rd. I'm not really going to look at those lists because... Oh, go on then. Let's have a quick look at Exiles. See if there's anything weird here. Couple of units of Yeoman Guard. They're pretty unexpected, but other than that, everything seems to be about usual. Oh, tea. The Refenestration of Prague, which means to, I guess, I'm not sure whether they meant this, but I think linguistically that means to throw somebody through the same window again, or maybe through another window. I don't think it has to be the same window, but somebody's just been thrown out of a window, so you throw them through another window. Maybe that's what they're going for, because that's quite funny. 20 people turned up, which is a decent size for a one-dayer. Got a couple of Warriors of Chaos under Mike and Dave winning there, both of them winning 3 games, getting full points. I don't know. I'd say that's joint first if it were down to me, to be honest. If they got the same, I don't know what points system they were using that they only ended up with 9. I understand. Oh, here we go. We got some tiebreakers. So we got strength of schedule and stuff like. Oh no, which one have they gone for? MOV or victory points? What's MOV? Don't know what MOV is. MOV? Oh, that was actually a Heralds list. Right. That should be Heralds. Interesting. Yeah, we see this quite a lot on some other platforms, but this is the event score. Oh, here we go. Crushing victory 3, victory 2, draw 1. Margin of victory. Oh, victory point differential. Right. So Mike with this list, so he's gone for Heralds of Darkness and he's gone for Galrauch, which is a very brave choice because Galrauch, I don't think is really that playable in tournaments. I know he's been part of a winning list here, but I'd urge caution with Galrauch because he does have this ability to just do nothing for a turn. And if you do need him to do something in a turn and he's failed his, I think it's a leadership check and ends up being like a level 1 wizard that can only dribble, that's not so good. And it's that unreliability. Yeah, he's pretty good for his points, but it's that unreliability, I think, that kind of makes him, not a good pick for tournaments. He's gone for a Lord on a demonic mount of undivided. He's got Talisman of the Carrion Crow, which means he's got a 2-up, 5-up, 5-up. Diabolic Splendor is -1 to hitting and shooting. Him and his unit, he's got a demonic mount, which gives him an extra wound, is it, I think? And some attacks, of course. Then he's gone for the demonic plate mail, which I forget what that does. I shouldn't, because I don't know what that is. Talisman of the Carrion Crow. What are we looking for? We are looking for this magic item called Demonic Plate. Oh, that one's the one that's +1 toughness, isn't it? Yeah, +1 toughness and initiative. I mean, initiative isn't really much of a worry for them because they're pretty good. I didn't talk about that one yet, did I? I'll go back. So that's so he'll be up to toughness 6 and I think 4 wounds, which is pretty decent. We've then got some Chaos Chariots. Well, 1 Chaos Chariot with the Mark of Tzeentch. Not sure why the Mark of Tzeentch. Flaming magical attacks, which means you've got magical impact hits. I mean, I guess that could be useful, but it's situational. As in, you need to be in the right situation to use it. It's not universally useful. We've then got a couple of units of Knights, which are undivided. We've got some Warhounds, some Maraud Horse, an undivided Chariot over here, a Gigantic Spawn, and a Shartak. To be honest, that's a pretty confusing list. I don't really know what it's supposed to do. Yeah, I have not anybody who is at this one. Please tell me how Mike managed to win games with that list, because it doesn't sit. There's nothing in there that kind of strikes out as being like, this is my strike piece. This is where I'm going to be taking objectives. It feels, it's quite chaotic. It's very good, very thematic. Dave Luther had a normal Warriors of Chaos, so he's got a Lord on a Manticore, which we're seeing more and more. Now the 500 point limit on the single character is here. Exalted Sorcerer, Aspiring Champion with the BSB. Yeah, and he's gone for the Blasted Standard, which means the unit that it's in gets to reroll 1s to save. Which is, pretty good. Then we got a unit of 19 warriors with the war banner and the brazen collar. The war banner gives you +1 to your combat res, and the brazen collar gives you, I think, magic resistance 1. I'm imagining this guy's on foot. Yeah, so the aspiring champion probably goes in that unit because he's got nothing else to go in. He's got a waterfire dragon, which are cool. I'm not sure they're any good, but they're pretty cool. They've got some decent rolls. It's basically a dragon and a stone thrower all in one. But it's like it's not a very good dragon and not a very good stone thrower all in one. So if you want a sort of slightly suboptimal dragon and a slightly suboptimal stone thrower, then that's what you're getting. Now, oh come on! Just as a reference, that dragon costs 280 points. So the black dragon costs 280 points, which is arguably, the best dragon in the game. This one costs a full 95 points more. I mean, yes, the Dark Elf dragon doesn't. It costs more than that because you've got to put a Lord on it. However, like from a basic points comparison, if I was able to buy just a standalone Dark Elf dragon and stick that in my Chaos list instead of a Waterfire dragon, I'd 100% do that because they're better. They just are. So, yeah, I mean, I think the Waterfire dragon is a little bit on the pricey side for what it is, but You know, there's monsters that are better, that are a lot cheaper. For instance, the I mean, you compare the Waterfire Dragon's profile with the Sky Lantern, for instance. You know, the Sky Lantern has better shooting. It's got better abilities. Waterfire Dragons do turn off ward saves, and I know GW have probably heavily pointed that because it's difficult to point, but it's really not that good. It really only allows you to turn off ward saves of pretty much, you know, I guess the problem, it's difficult to wield as well because it's a dragon, so it's difficult to like put it on the table and get it to go where you want it to go. But I could conceive of it in some very rare moments being incredibly critical to victory. But it just strikes me as being a bit too expensive. And I think part of the problem that they've had is that they've essentially pointed it for a dragon and for a stone thrower. And it's not really particularly brilliant at being either. You can upgrade them to wizards. You probably don't want to. So yeah, it's a bit of an anomaly. I don't know where to. I'd rather it was cheaper, but more on the lines of, you know, more on the lines of any other. Like you've got the Cathayan Sentinel, for instance, which is slower, but is probably similarly tough, and definitely does a lot more damage in combat. But the Sentinel doesn't have any ranged attacks, unless of course you go for the magic version. But the magic version basically costs 40 points to give you +3 to cast a single spell, whereas this one you get +1 to cast, you know, maybe 2 spells if you upgrade it to level 2. But, you know, so you need to pick a good signature spell to be the one this is going to cast. And it's going to, do you know what I mean? It just gives you a lot of headache, really, thinking about what to do with the bloody thing, because it's also a big investment. It's 400 points. And like it's only toughness. Well, it's toughness 6 wounds, 4 up save. All that's, and I think it's got 5 up regen. All that's quite good and survivable. But you know, it's not, weirdly, it's not as survivable as the bloody Sky Lantern with a Magistrate on, which costs, you know, less points. Ridiculous, and doesn't have the same damage output, and isn't unbreakable. You can combat res it. I don't think the Waterfire Dragon's even got stubborn. So if you combat res it in one turn of combat, and then and then manage to run it down, you can do that. Whereas, you know, you can't with the old Sky Lantern because it's unbreakable. So it's now I've said that, actually I just really want to check that it's not got unbreakable, and I've forgotten that, but I highly doubt it does. Where's Warriors of Chaos? There they are. Yeah, this is why I wanted to do a new faction, because I don't really know what I'm doing with my Warriors of Chaos. I've got too many of them. Like, I think did I actually do my everything list? Oh, that's probably on my phone. Yeah, I did my everything list on my phone, and it came to about 9,000 points. And that's just Warriors of Chaos. Like, that's not counting all the other stuff that I could, you know, it's like ridiculous. And that's not even me being ridiculous about, like, what I really want to do is get some of these lovely things. This was the first, I love this Mutalith. It was the first monster I got when I got back into Warhammer, when I was doing when I got back into Age of Sigmar. And you know, you can tell from the basing style that's I'm a 6th ed player returning. Look at that. That's a massively 6th ed base there. So yeah, and you can tell from the painting that I was a relatively okay painter in 6th ed, but today's standards awful. But I don't know how everybody's got so much better all of a sudden, but you know, it's like everybody can paint to heavy metal standards nowadays, and I can't yet still. But anyway, Waterfire Dragon, that's what we were checking out. It doesn't have, it has no no, it's got explosive demise as well, which means it blows up. Everybody, yeah, I mean, that's pretty decent, I guess. It's yeah, I don't know. Oh dear, didn't want that. Right, Where were we up to? I can't remember. I got distracted. Oh, we were here, weren't we? And Gene Wilson came in third with Tomb Kings of Khemri. Got a couple of big necromancers. Sorry, high priests. This is surely mortuary cult. Yeah, it is. So we got Bo Shabti, very sensible. Big unit of skeleton warriors. With the phalanx rule, which basically means they don't have to fall back 2 inches. It's like shield wall, but better, if I remember rightly. Then we got a couple of skeletons. So this is basically the big anvil, and then everything else is a hammer. 2 Screaming Skull catapults. That might be model availability. I'd take 1 if you really must, but I'm sure you could make 10 points somewhere and take 2 caskets and 1 catapult, because I get why the catapult's there to like drop leadership of stuff. That absolutely makes sense to use it for that purpose. And 2 of them does give a bit of redundancy just in case 1 doesn't make it, but you really want 2 caskets. So basically you can use your necromancy to drop their leadership. I can see where he's going with this. He's got some wizards that will drop their leadership. The Screaming Skull catapults will also drop leadership, and then he can hit them with the magic missile from the casket. That does work really well. What I also have seen that's really effective is swapping that catapult for another casket, because then you can keep your 6-up ward and -1 to hit bubble going, which is super important for this army. So imagine being able to do both, and that's what the second casket gives you. So just an idea that I've seen from other lists elsewhere. Right, let's go back to Darkfire Cafe. So Richard Halin won it with Tomb Kings, Orc and Goblin Tribes for Matt Sinclair and Luke Reeves. Bloodherd will be interesting. Let's have a look at the Tomb Kings. Again, I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail. You got Armour of Ages on the Tomb King, on the Bone Dragon, with the Talisman of Protection. I hope you're beginning to see the pattern here. This is a very strong unit. Really difficult to kill. And because it's on a dragon, it does dish out a decent amount of damage. And actually, the Tomb Prince, King, whatever itself is actually pretty decent in combat too. So this is a problem. This is always a problem. And actually, it's relatively cheap and very good. So yeah. And then we've got like the standard skeleton-y stuff. And then we've got some you don't see carrion very often, and then he's got a casket and a necrosphinx. Perfectly sensible selection of rare slots there. Again, I'd imagine yeah, we haven't got necromancy, so he's not gone for the leadership debuff build, which is, which we saw in the previous list. So the casket's probably going to be focusing on defensive work. We do have so this, not sure which one to take it actually. We did have in an FAQ a ruling that the Casket of Souls could make a reserve move. So it can't move itself, but it can move if it's got reserve move. So you really want to be able to keep a Mortuary Priest close to it, so you can cast that and get it moving around the table. It's not going to be quick, but what it will give you is the ability to move that bubble of -1 to hit and the ward save around. So that's super critical, and I'm pretty confident that Richard did that at least a couple of times over the weekend. Matt Sinclair came second with Orcs and Goblins. He's gone for the best value character in the game, in my opinion. 300, you see this around 350 to 380 points, that kind of margin. He's gone for a Grizzly Trophy Rack, which you don't see very often, but it's a Wyvern with a Black Orc War Boss, great weapon, so like toughness 6 wounds, 3 up, 5 up, 5 up. Really good character, really survivable. Kicks out an awful lot of damage too, for a very cheap price. It's probably slightly less survivable than a Chaos Lord on a dragon, and it's probably no, with a 500 point restriction, it's probably more survivable than a Chaos Lord on a dragon. Doesn't do quite as much damage because the Wyvern isn't quite as good as the Dragon, but it's not far off. And let's just have a quick look. Luke. Alt. There we go. Let's have a quick look at what the Grizzly Trophy Rack does, because I've forgotten. Orcs and Goblins. Oh, I don't think I've written a list for Orcs and Goblins. Yeah, once again, another version of Warhammer comes along where I don't buy green skins. Even though I really want a green skin list, I just can't decide what to buy. There's just too many choices. I don't just want to buy a little bit of everything, because that would... it might look alright on the table. I'd have to find a theme to tie it all together. But spiders are cool. I like spiders. I like the Arachnarok. I like Black Orcs, especially the one on the Wyvern. I think it's great. I like Black Orcs on foot. I think they're a great unit. I like Boar Boys, especially Boar Boy Big Uns, because they're cool. I do like just silly goblins, and I like night goblins. So, like, I like everything. I really like Doom Diver catapults. I like Snotling pump wagons, not for the rules, just because they're weird and cool. So you see my dilemma. It's just really difficult for me to pick. And actually, most of that I've just described is reasonably effective. So I just find it too difficult to nail down what I actually want. And I don't really want to go all night goblins, but I know that's probably the most effective way to do green skins. Well, and this Black Orc bloke on a Wyvern. Right, where's the bloody... what? I thought he went for some trophy. Grizzly Trophy Rack, there it is. -1 leadership. I mean, that's quite cool as well, because, like, if you lose a round of combat, you're -1 to your leadership because he causes terror, unless you're immune to psychology, of course. But still, like, doubling down on... Well, still, just that obviously, the Grizzly Trophy Rack takes effect on everybody, doesn't it? So everybody's at -1 leadership. I mean, that could come in quite useful for sort of denying, like, Khemri abilities, because a lot of those are done on a leadership check. It could be... sorry, I just saw a magpie. I'm not superstitious, but I just decided to salute a magpie. I don't know why. It's one of those instinctive things that I think my grandparents were quite superstitious, and they taught me to salute magpies. If you only see one, you must salute it. It wards off bad luck or some nonsense. I don't know why. I don't know why I did that. Anyway, I used the wrong hand as well. So bad luck for me today, I guess. So we've got a Weird Knob Wizard, level 3, Lore Familiar with Battle Magic. Not sure why he's got Lore Familiar and Battle Magic. There's not 3 spells in Battle Magic that you desperately want. You want the one where you can move again, I think. I think that one's pretty critical here. Yeah, because he's got a decent sized Black Orc mob there. So, like, pumping those up the field is useful. He's got 9 Fanatics, which is just mega. I mean, Fanatics are really, really good. There's only really 2 factions that don't care about Fanatics. One of those is Ogres, because they're high toughness, high wounds, and, oh, look, you've done a bit of chip damage. Oh, well, I shall take 2 off my 3 million wounds. You know, Ogres aren't really that bothered by Fanatics, and really neither is anything that's, like, really heavily armoured. So, like, a sort of a Chaos Warrior heavy army aren't massively bothered by Fanatics. Like, it will kill a few, but not that much. And then, you know, the Night Goblins that you charge into afterwards will just die. No netters. I thought Night Goblins had netters, didn't they? It's netters for Night Goblins, isn't it? Yeah, no netters. I mean, yeah, it is 20 points, so it does make them quite expensive, but it does kind of make them effectively toughness 4, which I think is probably worth it, isn't it? An extra 60 points there. I guess if you went for your 60 points there, you probably have to drop something like the Night Goblin Big Boss. Oh, no, you can't, because you need 1 boss per unit. I think that's how it works, doesn't it? Let's just have a quick check. So if I do 1 big boss there, and then I duplicate that, yeah, you need 1 big boss. We need 1 boss per unit. So that's yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? So you probably have to get rid of this Wolf Rider mob if you wanted to do that. And actually, Goblin Wolf Riders are really useful for doing, like cavalry shenanigans, like running around the army at opponent, causing problems, march blocking, killing war machines, that kind of job. They're good at that. So yeah, and he's got 2 Deep Divers, which are amazing, and 2 Mangler Squigs, which I thought were terrible on release. I didn't see what everybody else saw in them, and then once I started to play this as my gigantic spawn, sadly of Nurgle, because I like the rules, although I call it Zinch with a 5-up regen. It's a great spawn of Zinch with a 5-up regen, and I've paid the points for Nurgle, but it's definitely Zinch. Anyway, it's funny. It's funny, like the design aesthetic or some of the design choices, because you look at like how they've done Space Marines, and that basically most Space Marine factions like use more or less the same rules. It's just you can thematically tweak. So you could have like a sort of a besieging White Scar list where they're all like siege specialists, and although it's not your typical White Scar list, which is normally bikers and speed and all that kind of stuff, actually it's possible that a detachment becomes particularly enamored with doing sieges and looks a bit like Imperial Fists, for instance. So not all like siege attackers are Imperial Fists. They can be other factions, situationally. And that's what I find a bit weird about like the Chaos stuff, because I'd have thought they'd have given you like mutations, so you could pick it like a mutation, but not like, if they were going down the same design aesthetic, they'd say, essentially that your gigantic spawn of Chaos can choose one of the 4 following mutations. So you could have Boundless Healing, which gives it regen 5, or Warpstone Claws, which gives it magical flaming attack. Do you know what I mean? Like you could do that instead, and so people could continue to, especially with stuff like Forsaken and Spawn and stuff like that. So you don't have to mark them with an ability. That's just their mutation. That's how I see it thematically anyway. But I know that's not rules as written, but still, that makes more sense to me, really. Because, why would Zinch only give his followers magical and flaming attacks? Like, Zinch is the god of mutation. It will be all sorts. Like, in fact, I think regen's probably more Zinchy. This kind of... The thing was one animal originally. It's just rampantly mutated into this massive behemoth, like whatever. Anyway, so that's Matt Sinclair, and then we've got how many people were at this? 10. I was spending a lot of time on a 10-person tournament, and then we've got this Minotaur Bloodherd, which is a Minotaur Bloodherd. Somebody reached out last time and said your list reviews need a bit of work. I'm not having a go. I sounded defensive there. I wasn't being defensive. I'm perfectly happy to take notes. So I've given you my email address, whatever. But I'm happy to take notes. So if anybody wants any feedback, whatever, I try to take as much time as I can. But obviously, if I took all the time that I needed to review every list review would probably be about half an hour to an hour long. I'm trying to cover as many people and be as inclusive as possible, but I'm not really going to have a look at that too deeply. But yeah, that looks like a decent Minotaur Bloodherd list. Right, then we've got the 3 grand tournaments, and then let's do Wales and then do the grand tournaments. So the last of the one-dayers will cover Wales. So Alex Bunduck with Warriors of Chaos. 14 people turned up. That's okay. Che Davies Smith with Warriors of Chaos, and then Michael Diaz-Buil with Royal Clan. Seaguard coming up there. Seaguard are having a pretty... Oh, that's interesting. 2 losses, and then he finished there. Stephen finished there. Yeah. Again, this is why I don't like this point system that doesn't really reward wins that well, because... The person who came third, he's got 2 draws. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's, a good draw to me is worth the same as a bad win, right? A good draw to me is worth the same as a bad win. So, you can get strategic victories within, like, battles that are drawn. right? So, but also you can lose whilst winning. So, like, if you achieve a Pyrrhic victory and lose most of your force, that's worse than drawing a battle and having most of your force remaining, for instance. So, yeah, I do accept that the draws are worth something, but wins shouldn't be worth more than losses, for instance. And that sometimes is the case with the win-loss draw system, these kind of point systems. I'm guessing it's out of 60 because the top score is 50. Right, so Alex Bunduk has gone for Chaos Dragon, Mark of Nurgle. He's gone for the Dragon, 500 points. Sorry, going back to what I was saying about the Black Orc on Wyvern, that's pretty much as good as this, but 100 and something points cheaper. I mean, yeah, you've got the. In fact, it's better because it's an exalted champion. It's not a lord. One fewer wound, for instance. One fewer attack. One fewer toughness. So this is actually only a toughness 5 dragon, because the Chaos Dragon only gives you +1 toughness, which I think is catastrophically bad. I don't know why with monsters they didn't just give the monster a toughness characteristic and you just say you pick the best one. So dragons are T6. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they've done that. It's a weird design choice. Then we've got a level 3 Sorcerer Lord of Tzeentch with a Taskmaster's Scourge, Crown of Everlasting Conquest, giving it a 5-up regen. So it's got a 5-up ward, 5-up regen. It appears to be on foot. The Enchanting Aura gives the units that are in it strike last, so it's probably, I'd imagine, in this unit of warriors. Maybe. They've got halberds. But the Sorcerer Lord means units in combat with it strike last, so they get to go first. So that's pretty decent as like a defensive combo. Like having cavalry charge into you and you getting to go first is pretty nasty. So it is 700 on points, but still pretty nasty. And then the Mark of Slaanesh gives you +1 initiative. I mean, I think the Mark of Slaanesh is a bit redundant there, but the Immune to Panic is useful though. He just likes Slaanesh, doesn't he? Yeah. Got some Marauder Horse with flails because they're really good. And that fills out your 500 point core tax. Then he's got a big unit of Chosen Knights. I don't like Chosen Knights because they're 50 points each. There's no way of resing them. It's not like Blood Knights, who are actually slightly cheaper and equally as good. Because Blood Knights you can bring back from the dead, whereas Chosen Knights you can't. So, I think 50... I mean, they do a lot of damage, but still, 50 points for a 1 wound model is a bit much. And then we've got a couple of gigantic spawns because they're fantastic. I think everybody maxes out on gigantic spawns. Well, unless they're taking a Warfire Dragon. There's some Forsaken here. We haven't seen Forsaken in a top list for a very long time, actually. So that's quite interesting. And I think the reason we haven't is we saw them at the start of Warhammer. They were quite good. They've got quite a lot of cool abilities. Like they've got a 5 at ward save inbuilt as infantry, which is pretty decent. They've got a decent amount of attacks. The only thing I'd do to improve them, is give them skirmish, which would make them feel a lot more like they should feel. And he's got a couple of units of Warhounds. Oh dear, mate. And unit of Chaos Knights with a Mark of Khorne. There's only 7 of them. Surely you can make that 8 somehow. Come on. 8's the magic number of Khorne, so it needs to make that 8. So, yeah, I don't know. You could probably drop 2 Forsaken and take another knight, couldn't you? And then you'd have 16 Forsaken and 8 knights. You might win more. You might have won the tournament had you stuck to the magic numbers, Che. Then Mikkel with the Royal Clan. We haven't seen a Royal Clan list for a while. We've got a Runesmith BSB. Master Rune of Grunye is... No. So Master Rune... So Rune of Spellbreaking is like an auto-dispel thing. Master Rune of Gromril is like a 2-up save, I think. Master Rune of Grunye is the unit that this is in gets a 5-up ward save, I think against everything. And then units within 6 inches get a 6-up ward save against shooting only, which is still pretty good. Got another Runesmith, got a Thane with a handgun and multiple hits and +1 and stuff to hit. So more accuracy, more reliability, more hits, more damage. So basically, this Thane does the same job as a unit of handgunners, but it's a single character, which is actually quite useful. But it's basically a unit of handgunners in one model. We've got another Thane with shield bearers, Rune of Preservation, which I think is immune to multiple wounds and killing blow. And then we've got shield bearers give you more wounds and a couple of extra attacks. Not very good ones, but still. Rune of Parrying is -1 to hit in combat. Rune of the Furnace is flaming. No, it's not, is it? Rune of the Furnace is 3 up ward against flaming, maybe. Rune of Passages ignore terrain, and the unit can as well. And Fortitude, I can't remember. Maybe I've got Preservation wrong and it's the other way around. But that's a really decent character. There's a lot built into that. I'm presuming that goes into the Longbeards. But then there are some Royal Clan Warriors as well that are pretty decent. It's just gone for shield there. Longbeards have got the great weapon and shield, so they're the ones that will be essentially tanking most of the damage. There is no anvil, though. And I think Royal Clan kind of need an anvil and kind of need a little truck, a little cart. But other than that, pretty decent list. I can see why it drew because it's not got a lot of maneuverability. So I guess actually Mikkel's quite a good player and he's played quite well, but he's just not been able to run stuff down. So that's resulted in a couple of draws. I think that's probably 3 quite close games. So anyway, well done. Excuse me a sec. Right, so we have Facehammer, Saffron Slam, and Shattered Realms. Save the best till last. I can't wait to look at that. Right. Oh, sorry. I feel a sneeze coming. Oh. Unbelievable. I've definitely got man flu. Right. So Facehammer. Liam Jordan managed to win it. How many people went? 29? Really? Is that it? Wow. I'm really surprised at that, actually. Like, I remember Facehammer, like AOS, used to be like a really big event, like 80 to 100 people. I really thought there'd be more than that. That's almost slightly worrying, were it not for the fact that there were 3 GTs go. Because the Saffron, does this actually take you to, or does it just point at random England? Saffron Walden. No, it is. Yeah, Saffron Walden. Yeah, so that's... Because if you look at the map, right... Facehammer's about there. Saffron Fantasy Slam's about there. And that got 18. Saffron got 15. Oh dear, hello. There was a lot of... And where's this? Oh, that's... So that'll sort of be competing with... because Stockport, here we go. So Stockport, Element Games, where Thingy was, where Facehammer was, is there. So that's like, that's not very far at all. That's like half an hour to an hour in a car, something like that. I think probably. $50 minutes, yeah. So, it's not far away at all in terms of venue. So, yeah. So, I guess, so... What I guess is... Oh, hold on. And Ed... Did I see Ed Fawcett? Oh, did he drop out of that? He must have dropped out. I hope he's okay. Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm not sure... Interesting, isn't it? I mean, the sort of the question that I've got in my head is... Were Saffron and... Violence and Varenka Hills not on, would all of those people have gone to Facehammer or vice versa, for instance? Because they're all, none of them is coastal, right? So sometimes in AOS there's this, I think, I don't know whether it still goes actually, but there are a few tournaments in or around Southampton, which I quite like to attend. The local crowd looks quite decent. However, it's like a 5-hour drive and, I'd have to get a hotel and stuff. And I like going to things that are basically an hour to an hour and a half away, so I can come home at the end of Saturday and sleep in my own bed. Being quite a big, I'm 6'1", I weigh 20 stone, mostly muscle. Most hotel beds are really uncomfortable, because they're not built for larger chaps. I don't know how else to say that. So I often wake up feeling terrible. Also, because I've been married for so long, I just find it really difficult to sleep, not at home. If you get what I mean. So anyway, well, let's do. No, I wanted to save the Skaven until last. I mean, still winning 4 games at 5 and a draw, undefeated. Right, Saffron Fantasy Slam. So, Ian Payton, Mortuary Cult, winning all 5 games. We've got a Wild Herd with Mark Ronald, Gingerman, and David Williamson with High Elf Realms. So, not your standard top 3, really. Your standard top 3, I'd say, at the moment would be Cathay, probably Wild Herd. Actually, Warriors of Chaos. They're not. We'll see later when I have a look at the meta. Warriors of Chaos are by no means the top faction. In fact, they're fairly average at the moment, near the top. But because they're so popular, you do see them crop up on podiums more often than not, because they are really popular. And there are a few really effective lists that you can write with Warriors of Chaos. But there is a lot of redundancy, and there is a lot of, in terms of units throughout the army that aren't really effective and you wouldn't take to tournaments, that kind of thing. So anyway, Thundercats. Cool. Ho. We've got a prince on a dragon with that dragony stuff. So basically this has got a... Ooh, light armor. Why is he giving it a shield then? Is he giving it... Oh, he's giving it Armor of Calador. I think that's full plate. So he's got a 3 up, 5 up, 5 up, basically. How's he got a 5 up, 5 up? Opal Amulet. I forget what Opal Amulet does. Do you know what? I still haven't reviewed the new High Elf book. This is terrible. I really should do that. Need more tea. What was I looking for? Can't remember now. Opal Amulet. Idiot. Right. Opal Amulet. Opal Amulet. Opal. Where the hell is it? There it is. Tilt Ward. It's that one. Right. So basically, Monster Slayer probably won't work unless you get it twice. So he's got a tilt ward save against a single wound. And it's not... Some factions have an ability where you get a 2+ ward save against you losing your last wound. This one is against a single wound. So even if you get hit first round of combat of the game, Bretonnian Pegasus Knight nonsense charges into your prince, rolls a Monster Slayer wound, and then you say, I'm going to use my 2 ward save now. And then you've got a prince with no damage. So yeah, that's cool. I like that. That's a nice 500 point princely dragon. We've then got an archmage who's Creation on foot. Just a note on pronunciation. It's Crace. The reason it's Crace is because, and not Trace. I hear some people trying to go a race, trace. It's not that, it's Crace. Because if you look at High Elf stuff, it's all thematically, basically ancient Greek, right? And there was a region of ancient Greece called Thrace, which were sort of slightly a different people. Anyway, Thrace had lions who lived there. So the whole lion heraldry and whatever, it's Crace is Thrace. Now, with Greek, they didn't have a sort of a ch sound. They only had like a hard K sound. So it's Crace. I'm not sure that they had a ch sound at all, but whatever. They're typically, well, although nobody knows, because ancient Greek is, of course, a dead language, scholars generally believe that the sounds would have all been hard, particularly in sort of earlier dialects. We expect a simpler sound, where sounds are harder, and you tend to find that in older languages that sounds are hard sounds rather than soft sounds. So no ch's or th's or that kind of stuff. It's only as language develops and humans spread a bit further that we get to those sorts of, like thorn, and you don't see a and that kind of, you see a kind of a sort of sound rather than a, not a gentle rolling. So it's interesting how language develops. Anyway, that's another. It's crazy, right? So noble on a griffin, talisman of protection, seed of rebirth, pure of heart, nice. So white lights. Is this a Croatian? It is a Croatian wall host. Okay, so that was wrong. So that's actually Crace. So actually, this is interesting, but not because it's higher. I thought it was going to be an interesting high elf list. It's actually an interesting Crace list, which is high elf, but not grand host, if you see what I mean. So he's got a BSB? No, he's just got a noble on a griffin. Okie doke. With a talisman of protection to give it a 5 at ward. I guess for 260 points for something to flap around and be a bit of a war machine hunter. Given the number of cannons that are in the game at the moment, I think that could be quite useful. Big unit of white lions. Some woodsmen. You don't actually, in a lot of Croatian lists, you don't see a lot of white lions themselves. I've seen quite a lot of Croatian lists that have done well, and core is just full of woodsmen. But this dude has gone for some actual white lions, and then he's got loads of Sisters of Megadeth killing stuff with a Ruby Ring of Rune in there. So that's all nasty shooting. There's some more okay shooting, and then there's this block of nonsense, and then a dragon, and then this to hunt war machines. So yeah, I guess that's a pretty decent list. I guess maybe you put the big unit in the middle, and that advances up, and then the skirmishes come in, and the thing flaps around, and the dragon flaps around? Maybe. There we go. But Horns of the Bull, is it? So maybe Horns of the Bull. So you go in and pull back. Bush. Horns of the Bull was a... Zulu? Is that the culture? I think Zulu might be what we called them. But I don't, anyway, if you've ever seen Zulu Dawn or Island Dwana, there's 2 films, both really, really good. Or Rock's Drift. What is that film called? Is that Zulu? That's just Zulu, isn't it? Michael Caine. Yeah. Anyway, if you've seen those films, the Zulus had this tactic called Horns of the Bull. So if you imagine, like you have like a sort of the head of the bull or the hair of the bull, and then the head behind it, and then the horns round. So essentially, you send the hair forwards. The horns are here. So essentially, it looks from the front that you're presenting like one line. You're not. That first line hits, and then when the first line hits, then the horns start to go around and envelop the enemy, and that happens quicker because when like the front line infantry hits, they do a bit of fighting and then start to get pushed back and then fall back until they hit this line, which then stops them from running. They turn again and form, or sometimes run through, depends on the situation. And then you've got this big, heavy block of infantry there. And then you've got these. So if you think like the front line is retreating at the same time, because these are all guys on foot, right? So in order to make it quicker, they've got 2 elements moving in opposite directions at the same time. It's very, very clever. It was very, very successful. Beat the British at Island Dwana, despite the fact the British were vastly more technologically advanced. And that led to massive problems later on down the line because they ended up stealing a load of guns. Well, not stealing, winning in battle. But anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yes, have we done all of these lists? Or have I just done the high elf one? I think I've just done the high elf one. Wild herd. It's a wild herd. We've got a level 3 on a chariot with the black maul, which is horrible. Don't know why, but anyway, he's there. It's like strength 10 and AP something, and whatever. You thought, I don't think they can take illusion though, can they? So interesting. He's only got like 2 attacks. Why would you want to give it that? Sorry, I'm just really confused. I don't know why. Why would you do that? Because this isn't a very good list. It's just something I'm playing around with. Oh, for God's sakes, you got to find a character that can take it. Beast Lord. Here we go. Yeah, 80 points on a. I am reading that right. Yeah, it's a great Bray Shaman with the Black Maul, but he's got elementalism. Yeah, I guess extra attacks. You're not going to roll 6 very often, are you? But still, like, I guess. Has he got 2 attacks? Yeah, it's a 2 plus D6 attacks, weapon skill 5, strength 6, AP. Is that worth an extra? I don't know that that's worth that really. But I mean, obviously he's done very well with it. But I'd really like to know whether that, after the tournament, whether Mark thinks that was a good pick. Because looking at it, I've got questions. I guess it could work, but. Then we've got another great Bray Shaman with the Hag Tree Fetish and a Flying Carpet. Cool. I like the Flying Carpet. It's cool. Some heavy Chaos Armor and stuff. And then we've got more Bray Shaman. Lots and lots of Bray Shaman with Primal Magic, Dark Magic and Demonology. Primal Magic, whose signature spell is rubbish. Dark Magic, whose signature spell is also rubbish. And what was the other one? I think he wants these for signature spells and just to roll just to see if he gets a cool spell that he can use. He's got a couple of Primal War Hoods, which I really like. Again, I'm not going to go into a massive amount of detail, but basically it's a unit of Gauls with some that are half price. So basically the Ungauls die to shooting, the Gauls get to combat. So you effectively here have a unit of 26 Gauls, 13 of them are rubbish Gauls, but it doesn't matter because they're the ones that are going to die first. So you don't care about them. And they just basically allow you to buy like a big unit of Gauls for very cheap. A couple of Tuskgor chariots, one Razor Gore, which is Razor Gore are great. Do a lot of damage. They're quite tough. They've got a lot of wounds. They're probably about as good as a Team Scorpion. Yeah, probably about as good as a Team Scorpion, but obviously cost about 20 points less. So, they're definitely worth taking. And the seemingly universal block of 4 Dragon Ogres with great weapons and heavy armor. I've not seen very many Beastman lists without this little block of Dragon Ogres in. Don't know why. It seems to just be in everything. Dragon Ogres are good though, because they got a 3-up save, they got a toughness 4, they got 4 wounds, so lots of wounds at a reasonable toughness with a decent save. And they kick out a ton of damage. So, I can see why they're in everything, but I guess they're pretty difficult to maneuver because they don't have swift strides, and they're basically, movement 6 or 7 or something. And then we've got a mortuary cult list, which has a high priest on a dragon, prince, necrotex. Their ability does stack. So if you put 3 of these in one unit, which probably that one, you can hypothetically give them all 3 extra attacks because it doesn't say. There's nothing that stops that ability from stacking, which I believe is a mistake, but they've not fixed it yet, so maybe it isn't. But anyway, Necrotect ability does indeed stack, rules as written, in my opinion. Cool, so that's Saffron Fantasy Slam, so well done to all of those chaps. No, you go last. Facehammer GT, normally really well attended, but I say only 29. That's pretty big for Old World, but still. Tom Brzezinski. Sorry. I just... Tom, well done, coming third with Chaos Dwarves. Only managed to lose one game. He's got a Sorcerer Prophet on a Bale Taurus with cool stuff. Mantle of Stone gives him +1 toughness, so he's up to toughness 7. Armor of Destiny is heavy armor with a 4 at ward, so he's really, really defensive. And he's got Demonology. He's even paid for the level 4 upgrade, so confident is he that he will get to cast 4 spells a turn, which he probably will. And he's gone for the Dark Forge weapon, which is basically a weapon that has random effects. So he could have like magical attacks, or it could be +1 strength. You got to roll a d6 at the start of the game, right? So you don't know what you're going to get. Probably the best value for money character in the game, as well as probably the best character in the game. Because it's the Sorcerer Prophet is of course an engineer as well as a wizard. So you stick it near these. Actually, no, it doesn't have any effect on Iron Demons, does it? I think. What else can you chorfs? What else can you use the Infernal Engineer of? One friendly war machine may reroll 1 scatter dice or 1 artillery dice. Does the Iron Demon use... I don't know whether... Oh, it does, doesn't it? It does use the artillery dice because it uses cannonade. It's basically an organ gun. So, yeah, you can keep him near the Iron Demons and use that to reroll artillery dice whilst being a level 4 wizard, doing a bit of casting and being a combat menace because the Bale Taurus is pretty good. Plus the fact that he's toughness 7 and a 4 at ward. That's ridiculous. So, yeah, this is a really strong set of 2 characters. He's then got a minor... Because you've got to take a unit of Black Orcs per Black Orc character. And vice versa. You've got to take a Black Orc character to have a unit. So he's gone for the minimum. He's just gone for a unit of 4 with 4 shields. 1 great weapon. Probably the boss with the great weapon and the rest with shields, I'd imagine. You know, they got full plate and stubborn. So they're pretty nasty. They can sit on a backfield objective all game long. He's got 2 units of Hobgoblin Cutthroats, which are rubbish, but fairly, like all chaff is, useful in their way. And then he's got a unit of Infernal Guard here, which have shields, hand weapons, heavy armor. So they're, again, quite defensive. So essentially the damage is coming from the 2 characters and the Iron Demons, and this stuff is basically taking up space on the table. So very good, very clever list. Not surprised it did well. Ian, Chris Cousins got knocked out of the top 3 with Cathay. Oh, there's another one knocked out of the top 3 with Cathay. Have we got somebody doing Cathay badly? No, not yet. Kingdom of Britannia, Ian coming in second. Congratulations to Ian. He's gone for Elise Ducar. Good man. Très bien. We've got... I think she's great. She's got she's basically very anti-magic. But actually, because she can cast 2 of the Bretonian law spells, she can get the 2 buffs. So if you stick her in a unit, like for instance those Mounted Knights of the Realm there, or these Grail Knights, either will do. She can, if she rolls quite well, she'll probably give them a 6 up regen, but she could give them a 5 up regen, and she can give them +1 strength and AP, probably quite reliably. And these are both remains in play. So you cast them at the start of the game and then just hope your opponent forgets. You know. And yeah, in a tournament, it's not your job to remember your opponent's stuff. He's gone for the Green Knight because the Green Knight's great. It does a lot of damage and is very, very annoying to deal with because it just keeps coming back. And it's so difficult to deal with because of how it pops up on the table. Like, it basically pops up and just charges something. Like, it's pretty nasty. And, you know, it can quite happily take down a dragon, you know, if they've not got a magic weapon. So, pretty nasty. He's got a Duke with the Virtue of Knightly Temper, Syrien's Locket, the Ogre Blade. Yeah, pretty decent stuff there. It's basically just increasing its output. That's all about output there. And then that's probably going to go in the Pegasus Knights. Oh my god, who's given the Razor Standard? So this Duke who's got an Ogre Blade has now got Armor Bane, 4? Something like that. So if he rolls a 6 to wound, he's like -6 to your save, or -5 at the very least. So yeah, that's pretty. That's all about output. Virtual Knightly Temper is like D3 extra attacks, and you get to reroll all your hits. So with Ogre Blade, that puts them up to like strength 7, I think, maybe 6, 7, something like that. Really good. Right, my voice is failing. I've not got much of it left, I'm afraid. Oh, I didn't turn it off. Cathay, 2 cent. Oh, good. Oh, good. People are. I think. I'm not saying this was only my idea. I'm sure other people have had this idea, but I think people are adopting the, the limitation is, it comes from where the thing's native to. I'm so glad they're doing that because, like, I saw the 4 Sky Lantern list and I thought, oh no, that's horrendous. That is just horrible. Like, and literally the 4 Sky Lantern list, I think the only thing that could probably deal with that is another Cathay list, which is, not right. 2, I think 2's doable. You've got to focus a lot of attention though on stuff that's basically 500 points. To an extent, you are better just to ignore them and try and kill everything else. But that's going to be difficult. 2 cannons with ogre loaders and gunpowder bombs, they're going to be hard to deal with as well. I've seen lists with like 3 of them without the ogre loaders. I'd prefer 2 of them with, because at least in the first round of combat you can take 4 shots if you really need to. So yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's a decent Cathay list. Like I don't really need to go into much detail really. Like, you've got a level 3 wizard that's a good war machine hunter and actually can take out chaff and is pretty good in combat and has a magic weapon that's pretty decent. And has illusion so he can stop people charging and all that kind of stuff. So this is a pretty decent wizard. You've then got a Lord Magistrate who's presumably got the Talisman. He hasn't got the Talisman of Protections. That is an error, I think. Cunlin Alchemist's Mask. I forget what they do. Sorry, excuse me. Crystal of Cunlin and the Alchemist's Mask. Alchemist's Mask. Oh yeah, that one is horrendous. Yeah, it's just so power level 3. Really, screw you. Like, that means it's cast on a 6. It's supposed to be slightly unreliable. That's what it's being a 9. Oh no, but Cathay don't need to they need to be able to reliably cast these slightly unreliable spells, of course. Yeah, so that's great. Like, power level 1, I'd be okay with. 3, no. Because basically what that is, power level 1 means you can cast this spell on an 8, and power level 3 is you can cast this spell on a 6. Like, and there's quite a big difference in terms of statistical rolls between those 2 scores. Pardon me. Then we've got some Jade Warriors who are doing Jade Warrior-y things and just like taking objectives and stuff like that. So yeah, and then we've got a Sentinel and he's gone for Granite. He's gone for Grey Knight, which is Granite is armor value by 1. It means multiple wounds. Oh, interesting. Not immune to Monster Slayer though. That's important to note. But yeah, gets +1 to his save. So he's now got a 4-up save. Toughness 6, 4-up save, 6 wounds. Yeah, not bad. The Terracotta one, you start with regen 6. I don't know whether that's better than +1 save. I don't know. But that's the free one. You get regen 6. The others you lose your regen, I think. Yeah. The others you lose. I mean, I quite like Jade. Because it can, you can have another Plague of Rust with a power level of 3 if you want. Oh, sod. So yeah, but well done to Liam. 5 wins at a tournament is no mean feat. It doesn't matter how good your army list is. You've got to have a good list to get in the top 3 in general. But, you've also got to turn up and, stick to your game plan, stick to your game, and be humble and not get ahead of yourself. So well done to Liam. for winning. It's never easy winning a tournament. So I know I've only ever won once, and that was quite a few editions ago. Sixth, I think. It's a very long time ago. But then I don't really play, competitively much at the moment, which is annoying. Right, this one is the one I'm really excited about. There's still no Cathay at the bottom. Like, I haven't seen any Cathay finishing in the bottom half of a tournament, which when we do the stats in a minute, adds a totally different context to the discussion around Cathay. Anyway, City-State of Nuln coming in third. He's got Hans von Leeuwenhoek, which is really... it's 2.4k. Nice. So, Leeuwenhoek within Nuln is a really good choice, because Nuln is usually, because of its number of war machines, look, you got 5 there, that's 1 drop. You got the veteran state troops and some detachments. I think detachments are deployed at the same time. So 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, 4 drop, 5 drop for all the characters. 5 drops, you're probably getting +1 to go first. And then Hans von Leeuwenhoek either allows you to give yourself +1 or -1 to that roll. So you could decide to give yourself +2 to go first. So you're probably going to get to go first, which is a really good advantage for you, so that you can be a bit more aggressive in terms of where you place stuff. Yeah, he's given Squint Softens Marvelous Magnifier. He's given himself that twice. I didn't know that was doable. I haven't written a Nuln list for a while. That's exciting. No, Empire of Man, Nuln, City-State Nuln. There we go. Sorry, what am I doing? I've forgotten what I was looking up now. Squint Soften, that's it. Master Mage. Let's check out a Master Mage. Magic item. Squint Soften. Oh, it is extremely common. Okay, well, that's cool. No -1 to hit at long range. So, we've got 2 of those. Where do they go? Are they on the Warhawk? That is super smart. Do you know, I've not put that together before. Stick them on the Outriders, yeah. Oh, that is really good. That's very clever. Well, it's not very clever. Well, it is very clever, but I'm annoyed with myself for not seeing that. That's such an obvious play. Because they're core as well, so you can take, like... Yeah. You've got to have your unit of Nuln state troops, so, whatever. Take those. But, yeah. Oh, this is really clever. And then if you give your sharpshooter the grenade launching blunderbuss, you can make him a bit more reliable. Because basically, they have ballistic skill 4. So 4's good. Sort of good. They've got multi-shot weapons, so, the 4's kind of counteracting the multi-shot weapon thing. But yeah, so they've got repeater handguns, so the multiple shots 3. So 10 of them is basically 30 handguns, but because of cavalry bases, you can make them, quite maneuverable and quite useful. But if you stand still, of course, the grenade launch it's ponderous and cumbersome, which means you can't stand and shoot with it, and you get -2 to hit if you move. However, it does have quite a decent range, 24-inch range, strength 4, AP2, and it causes D3 +1 hits, combined with the repeater handguns, which are also 24-inch range. So this one, if they've stood still, is hitting on 2s, doing D3 +1 hits. So that's probably doing 3 hits, right? If you gave him a repeater handgun, he'd be shooting 3 times. It might do 4 hits, could do 2. But on average, maximum actually, is doing more hits than the handgun. But on average... plus also, I think it is just native AP2, isn't it? Yeah. Whereas the repeater handguns are AP1 armor bane ones, so it's better from that. It's just better. So, but it's a bit unreliable, and actually, you kind of want them to be moving around, spraying and praying. But actually, you can turn these into like just basically this is your gun line now. It's just a very, very mobile gun line, which does have fire and flee. So even if their cavalry kind of rank up against you, they've got to get quite close to turn off the fire and flee. You don't have quick shot, sadly, so you can't do that. But Squintsoften's Marvellous Magnifier in that unit is so clever. That's really good. Really, really good. Thank you, Jordan. Very clever. And he only finished third, so I can't wait for the other list. Because this is great. He's got 3 great cannons, of course, and 2 steam tanks, because it's 2 400, so you can take that. I really like this list. He's gone for the veterans, which makes sense, because re-rolling all your leadership tests for Empire is pretty key. So yeah, Jordan, great list. Lucas has a more standard list. He's got some Demigriff Knights of Moor. Oh, that's exciting. I mean, I'm trying to build a nightly list of Moor, but I just struggling. Oh yeah, more. I can't find more. Please bear with a sec. Empire of Man. I shall find out what it is. Knights of Moor. Here we go. Thanks. Thanks. Rules index. That's great. That's great. Is it that one? Here we go. Knights of Moor. Hatred Undead. 6 ward against non-magical. For 3 points. They don't get that because they're not in a circle or... I don't know why you'd make them more. Because, like, hating undead, 6 at ward against non-magical, I mean, that's not that good. You're much better off, like, I think if you're going to do anything with... if you're going to upgrade... right. I think, my opinion, Demigriffs... You should really think about White Wolf. I know it's law breaking because White Wolf Knights, I don't think it's in the law that they ever rode Demigriffs, but whatever. They are quite good because you got your Wolf Hammers, right? Which are they get +2 strength if they've made a long charge move, but if not, it's basically a halberd with extra AP. And as Demigriffs are proper like thump and grind cavalry. So they thump, they hit hard, but they can grind as well. So they can stay in combat and continue to do loads of damage. You're much better off giving them the Wolf Hammers because they're just better than halberds. They're not quite as good as great weapons. What's he gone for? What did he actually go for? He went for lances. So they're not going to be very good. Well, they're going to be okay because the Demigriffs themselves do a bit of damage. But the White Wolf gives you Furious Charge. So it gives all your riders an extra attack. And then your +2 strength and +2 AP with your Wolf Hammers anyway. So you're like hitting with lances with an extra attack. You know, that's pretty decent. And in the second and subsequent rounds of combat, you're hitting them at strength. I forget what Demigriff strength knights are. So I think they're 4. Yeah, so you're hitting at strength 5 AP2 still. So strength 6 AP2 on charge, strength 5 AP2 in every other. +1 attack on charge as well is pretty decent. So I think White Wolf on Demigriffs is perfect. Evasive could be useful. Knights Panther meh. Makes charges slightly more reliable, but not that much more reliable. Fiery Heart, +1 initiative in first round can be useful, but generally meh. And more, just not very good at all. In a circle, getting fear and magical is pretty decent, but still more as in the set of abilities is not good. I think it was good before the infantry upgrade because essentially Khemri were dominant and Khemri and vampire counts are pretty much everywhere. So actually hating undead I think is a lot better than hating anybody else. Maybe Hatred Warriors of Chaos is pretty good because there's a lot of Warriors of Chaos players, but I think there's more undead players in total than there are Warriors of Chaos. So Yeah. But yeah, so that's just one comment on one unit. The rest of the list, I really like. I think it's pretty good. And then, Skaven. Let's have a look at this. We've got a Warlord with a Dragon Slaying Sword and Skaven Brew. Okay. Okay. What's the delivery system? Oh. Oh. Right. Right. Screaming Bell. How the fuck did this win 5 games? Seriously, how on earth did this win 5 games? Like, 2 Hell Pits? I mean, I guess with Renegade they've been put up to toughness 6, so that makes them pretty decent. Gutter Runners, poison attacks being nerfed means these are just they're not that viable. And he's gone for an Obsidian Lodestone, which is magic resistance on these. I mean, Gutter Runners are decent, but like, now poison attacks are just +2 wound instead of auto wound. I don't think they're worth the points. I think they're just a bit expensive. Like, you know, they're almost 20 points each for like a toughness 3 no armor model. Like, you've really got to look after them because it's a lot of points to lose. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if dude here, Harrison, plays, you know, Nunchap, and Nunchap gets one of his units of Outriders on those rats, they're just dead. They're just wiped out. You know, 1 round of shooting and you've lost 200 points of army. That's mega. So, don't know about that. How the hell did it do so well? Right, Grand Banner of... Let's have a look at this. So, Grand Banner of Superiority is what he's given to his Storm Vermin, which won't load. Oh, no, I don't want you. Go away. I want my Storm Vermin to load. Which is plus D3 to combat results. Yeah, I don't see why this is... I don't think it's very good. I think Harrison must be very good. Because, like, the Dragon Slaying Sword in there... I mean, Skaven Brew basically gives you Frenzy for a turn. Oh, no, it doesn't. It gives you Frenzy forever, doesn't it, of course? Because it just gives you Frenzy. Which, you know, but you choose when you're frenzied, right? Oh, no, it's until your next... Yeah, so it's temporary Frenzy, so it's not even Perma-Frenzy. It's not even full Frenzy. So you can give yourself Frenzy for a turn and give yourself an extra attack. Skaven Warlord's got 4 attacks, so it goes up to 5. Weapon skill 7 is decent. But still, yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. Because surely you just challenge it. Yeah, and then it hides in the back instead of accepting the challenge. But still, got a couple of rattling guns are okay. They're not. I think rattling guns like trade okay. I think they make their points back every game. But the problem is you've got stuff like these 20 clan rats that aren't going to make their points back every game. So you've got to have other stuff that's going to make more than their points. Hell Pits, I'm not sure that they make their points back every game. Like, they probably do, but, you know, they're not that good. Gutter Runners, 200 points for 11 models is a lot for Skaven. It's a lot. You know, for instance, I like that as a unit. 9 Jezzails, 170 points, right? Cheaper. 18 wounds in there, by the way, because they've got 2 wounds each. You know, and, you know, a relatively decent save against shooting. Is it 4 up at the front? So they've basically got a full plate against shooting, all of which is pretty decent. You know, compared with these Gutter Runners, I mean, Gutter Runners are very talented buggers, don't get me wrong. But, like, with how he's kitted them up, they're effectively 20 points each now. So, you know, because 20 times 11 is 220, which is, you know, near as damn it. 2 hand weapons, throwing weapons, poison attacks. He's gone for throwing weapons to give him an extra... Oh no, sorry, that's throwing. Yeah, sorry, I'm thinking about something else. And then the assassin, what did the assassin go for? He went for obsidian lodestone. I'm pretty certain that's magic resistance, isn't it? Yeah, 1. I mean, whew, it just feels like too much. It just feels like too many points. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a model availability thing. But how the hell he managed to win 4. How did he not? That is incredible. Anybody who was at this thing, please tell me how the hell he managed it, because it's just like, oh no, that's him I'm looking at on those things, isn't it? I don't want to look at him on those things. I want to look at, yeah, Harrison. You are my new hero. Uh, I don't know how you managed to do that. What did he do? How did that work? Aaron, that's round 5 was against Errantry Crusades. That's not going to be terrible, is it? Harrison wins against Ogres. Okay, fair enough. Let's have a look at Pete's list. Let's see. That's not what I told you to do. Horse Bruiser, Saber Tusks, Iron Guts Bowls, 2 small units of Mournfang. They're easy to deal with. A couple of Iron Blasters. Well, they do have a bell to target because he's put his thing on a screaming bell, and that's just going to get shot. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, is the screaming bell good? Have I misunderestimated it? Like, have I misunderstood how it works? I don't know. So that was round 1. Harrison there beat Orcs and Goblins. Okay, yeah, they're not. Orcs and Goblins can be beaten by Skaven in the right circumstances. Then he drew with an expeditionary force. That's impressive, just in itself. Then, where is he? Harrison. Where are you, Harrison? Then he got a 20-0 against an Orc and Goblin list in round 4. That's probably the game that won him the tournament, really, rather than Podium. Oh, no. Hold on. Yeah, that's probably the game that won him the tournament, isn't it? I think, actually, what we've seen here is that everybody's not... So, like, you'd expect people near the top to have, like, a few, like 18, 19, 20s. So that gives you about 60 points. And then you get another sort of marginal win, which gives you, like, 70 odd. And then maybe a draw or whatever. So 80 points is tournament points is pretty normal. So they're quite low point scoring here. But they've gone win, law, dross, I think. Win, draw, loss, I think. And then use the tournament points as a decider. So actually, the points don't matter because he just has a better record. It's just I'm absolutely flabbergasted. I'm absolutely like I just don't. And he 20-0'd this list, 9 for Nat. How and just how? I just don't get it. What am I not seeing about Skaven? Harrison, help me out. Right, I'll blow. Right, so let's finally round this off. This has been a bumper week. This is my second video, and it's 2 hours long. I've done 3 hours of videos on tournaments that happened last weekend. And I've had a mega busy week as well. It's been ridiculous. Right, let's have a look at the faction stats. So top faction in terms of, let's go from, we don't want from the core launch, we want from Errata. So this current edition. Not a lot of results yet, still. We're getting more results, but not a lot of results for factions. Warriors of Chaos have appeared 300 times, so we can probably be pretty certain, we can probably be pretty definite that the stats for the Warriors of Chaos are getting close to being reasonably accurate. Probably we're looking at like a 6 or 7% error margin with them, whereas something like Skaven, 26%. This data here, really inaccurate, like with 10% error margin, probably more, 15, 20%, something like that. However, Skaven are at the bottom of the meta. Basically, how this chart works is the bar is the average win percentage, and these whiskers here represent the normal range. So essentially, the variation of results. Now, how you work this range out, and this is the point I was going to make about Grand Cathay, is you look at the variance of the results within that faction. So we mentioned SD here, right? You look at the variance of results. You then take the square root, and the variance of the results is basically if you were to like plot the results in some kind of order on a chart, and then you to put like an average line, there'd be a gap in between where the results were and like the average, the mean line, right? The variance is essentially the area of like as if you were like, for instance, you have an average line like that. You have a data point here on the average, a data point here, and then let's say there's a data point here. So it makes a little triangle. The area of that triangle is your variance, more or less. And you take the square root of all of that variance, and that gives you a standard deviation. Now, a standard deviation is basically what... So the average plus or minus one standard deviation is about 2/3 of the population. So that's what we call normal, right? So this is the normal range. I don't see very many negative results for Cathay. I think the true result for Cathay is actually up here somewhere. And that's the problem with doing like this two-tailed analysis, is that sometimes it doesn't really work very effectively to convey what's going on. I'm not having a go at Gommo. This was my idea. I asked him to do this chart. However, sometimes it doesn't work, and I'm explaining one of the limitations of the methodology now. And I think Grand Cathay, the problem with Grand Cathay is much worse than it is. Not to mention the fact that they're outperforming massively. I think they are actually outperforming even worse than this. Again, 92 events, you're still at like a 7 or 8% error term, but still, and I think that error is positive probably. But anyway, the Z score is interesting. So the Z score is basically its results relative to everybody else. So essentially, the Grand Cathay at the moment are 215% as good as the average faction. So over twice as good as the average faction. Over twice as good, right? Ridiculous. Skaven, on the other hand, have a Z score of minus 2.37, which means they are over 4 times. Is it 4? Because you start with 1. Nearly 4 times as bad as the average faction, right? So the Z scores are also quite revealing in terms of like what the hell's going on. But we've got Wild Herd. Again, I said they'd be good because I think it's the mutation and the magic point together. I think just drop off the extra 25 points for magic items and you've got something that's quite cool. In fact, actually, Wild Herd I'd change so that, because they're supposed to be like more mutated, I guess. So I'd say you can choose to drop your magic items by 50 points in order to take an extra 50 points of mutations, in addition to the extra 25 points for mutations. I think that'd be quite cool. But anyway, City State of Nuln is doing well because cannons are good. And Cathay and Nuln at the top within the current meta, what with cannons being good, are not a surprise because they've got the best cannons in the game. So has Exiles. Actually, Exiles have probably got the best cannon in the game still. I still think their cannon's better than the Cathay one. Only just, but it's still better. We've not actually seen enough of Bretonnia. If I do this, get rid of this 10 plus appearances, maybe we might see... Talzin seems to be doing okay, but again, only 6 appearances, so not really much to... Exiles are down here, 91 appearances. No, they are 91 appearances. They should have been there. Did I just miss them? Yeah, I did. So they're there. They're towards the top, but they're coming within. Now, I don't think that Exiles and Bretonnia have been fixed. I think there's still problems with them. Nerkar and Royal Hosts, I think, are really good, and I said this ages ago, and I'm glad to see that I'm being vindicated. I think that within the current meta, they've got a lot of game. They've got a really good, strong unit of massive block of infantry, basically, that they can res and do loads of cool stuff with. They've got loads of hard-hitting chariots, so they can have this block that just doesn't die, and then just play around it. Oh. Don't know what happened there. I might have accidentally turned off my microphone for the last hour, which would be quite annoying. But yeah, so we've got the Neokaran Royal hosts doing quite well. I still think these have issues in terms of game balance. So from Krace to Royal Host, probably Walls of the Sea as well, but I don't know how they function really. I've never been lucky enough to play against a player, so that's that. But then we've got these three up here are particularly problematic. Are particularly problematic. And then at the bottom, you know, we know these are all struggling. Wood Elves in particular, Skaven I feel very guilty about, but I do think the Renegade pack is going to help that. So that's the overall stats. You know, we've got some issues with stuff. And look, you see, so if you this was the chart that Gomo put up first, which just had like a simple win rate, and he said, well, you know, you want between 45 to 55, don't you? Well, that's the problem here, is that it doesn't take account of what everybody else is doing. This is all relative. So this is the difference between like setting arbitrary standards compared with relative standards. So you see here, you know, you got a normal distribution, you got some massive outliers at the top and the bottom, you've got some outliers here, and then you've got this. Now, if you do parametric data testing, you're always going to have outliers, right? So the difference between parametric like this and arbitrary like this is you can turn arbitrary all green, right? Because if you've got a pass standard and everybody's meeting the pass standard, they're all passing. Whereas you're always going to have outliers if you start looking at the data in a parametric fashion. So this is never going to be all green. However, what this is going to be is this asks questions essentially of the game designers. Why are these factions much better? Why are they much better? Is there something broken with them that's causing problems? Cathay, yes. Wildherd, yes. Nuln, not sure what it is, but probably. Mortuary Cult, yes. Why do they still get the ridiculous casting bonuses? Like, they don't need them. They've already got decent casting bonuses, decent magic, blah, blah, blah. Skaven need them. Like, and Skaven spells aren't that good. Like, I don't know why they're so hard to cast. Like, for instance, you look at the Law of the Horned Rat, right? The one that you want to get off is this Warp Lightning spell. It casts on a 10. So even with your level 3, you need to roll an 8, which is less reliable. You can use a Warpstone token, so you probably need to roll a 6, therefore, to get it. You know, which is okay. But then it does basically 3 strength 5 hits at AP3. It's like, whoopee-doo. Like, that's not... Do you know what I mean? That's nothing to write home about. It's not an amazing spell. Like, at least make it 2d3 or something. Make people terrified that you're going to get this off, right? That's what Skaven is supposed to be. They're supposed to be really high risk. Like, because you can kill yourself with the Warpstone tokens. Like, crunching down this Warpstone can hurt. If you roll a natural 1, so not a 2 on a d3, but you roll a natural 1, then, you know, you end up taking a wound. You still get your +1 to cast, but you end up taking a wound, right? You end up taking a wound. And that's on the wizard itself, and there's no way to heal it, right? You compare that with, for instance, Mortuary Cults, and they have a rule that... well, in fact, let's find it. But they have a rule that... That's wrong. Where is it? Where's the bloody... Oh, idiot. I can't find the bloody factions now. Ooh. Where are they? Jury Cult. That's just the thing, isn't it? Oh, hold on. That one? No. That one? No. That one? Here we go. So a Lich Priest can pick a friendly unit blah, blah, blah. +1. That uses a wound, loses a wound, and the Lich Priest gets +1 to their casting roll, right? So they can get +1 to their casting roll and hurt something else that, you know, at some point they can resurrect, right? So it's no risk for +1 to cast, and their spells aren't that difficult to cast and are already quite effective. So, like, because they've got those two-tier spells are really good, because you normally have a safe casting value that does something. Normally not very good, but it does something, right? But then, if you get lucky, you end up with a really good spell that does lots of cool stuff. So you don't mind casting those. Cathay have loads of them, which, again, is another reason why they're broken, because they've got them. Do you know what I mean? And the factions that do have them tend to be the better factions. It's not surprising, because if you give factions spells that they can cast relatively easily that are effective, and then you give factions like an on the off chance you've rolled really well, you get a mega death version of it, then, you know, you've kind of broken that faction a little bit. And Skaven just have spells that are hard to cast and don't really do a lot, you know, which is, you know, why they're particularly problematic and why they're at the bottom. And I think the spells should do a lot more damage, but also come with risks. And, you know, because that's what you want with Skaven. That's why they're fun, because they blow themselves up. And you. But anyway, that's the stats. And the tournaments and everything. And my voice is about to go, and I do actually have to go into work and actually do something today. So I'm going to have to go for a shower and get myself sorted. But anyway, thanks for watching. If you're still watching and you haven't subscribed, now is the time to perhaps click that button. Is that my... Oh, that is my phone. Right, I'm going to have to get off. Anyway, subscribe, like, all that. Toodaloo. See you again soon.